is a Jewish holiday that occurs in the Hebrew month of Adar, the 14th of Adar, so about halfway through. And there's a lot of festivities, a lot of partying, a lot of costume wearing. And I think because of the costume wearing, I've heard people say that Purim is the Jewish Halloween. And I really have to say, no, it's not. No, it's not. It is not the Jewish Halloween. Really to say how much it's not the Jewish Halloween, I just want to take a couple minutes to talk about Halloween and what that is. Halloween has its roots in the Celtic traditions that really date back long before the Common Era. It was the Celtic tradition of celebrating the end of the harvest and the beginning of the Celtic New Year, which was November 1st. And the distinction between the richness of the harvest and November 1st, which begins the darkness of the winter months, created this aura of the night before, October 31st, where the lines of light and darkness blur, and the lines of life and death blur, because obviously harvest is the earth coming to life, and winter is the earth entering darkness. So we can see how these metaphors of life and death continue to inform October 31st at night. And to the point where the Celts were saying that the dead rise back onto the earth and go home. They walk the earth among us and they go home. And so we can hear how these traditions that will become Halloween start to talk about the night before, the spooky ghost thing, the dead walking around. The Celts would celebrate with bonfires and with animal costumes because it was very nature-oriented, with sacrifices and fortune telling and all of the things that ultimately will inform Halloween. And when we move on through history, we know that in that part of Europe, the Romans are taking over by about the year 45 of the Common Era. The Romans have now conquered Celtic land, and all of the Celtic traditions are moving into the Roman reality of things. And so this holiday of the New Year, the Celtic New Year, is starting to transform. And eventually, of course, the Roman Empire converts to Christianity, and all of what was inherited into Rome begins to now be brought into a Christian worldview. And so we're watching this Celtic tradition of October 31st move through the Roman reality and move into a Christian reality. By the time we get to probably about the 7th century, the Pope actually creates and cements in a holiday called All Saints' Day, and that's November 1st. And that's the day for Christians to be honoring saints and martyrs. And then the night before, October 31st at night, is the eve of All Hallowed Day, because it is the Day of the Saints. And when we go back to Middle English, that's what All Halloween is starting to talk about, the day that is for all those who are hallowed. That's Halloween. And when we talk about the eve of it, the night before, that is when we start to again hear these Celtic traditions of the dead walking among us, of a time for the evil to really enter the world, because the next day is going to be the counterbalance, the next day is going to be the celebration of saints. So we understand Halloween. Halloween moves through secularization when it enters the, quote, New World. It's coming to North America. There's all kinds of religious rights and freedoms that get argued about, Catholic, Protestant. Halloween is available in one community, not in the other. It transforms, it moves until today it becomes what is viewed by many as a secular holiday, but what is indisputably something that began with a pagan Celtic rite and moved through the Christian world. It can't have anything to do with Purim. When we talk about Purim, we are talking about ancient Jews living in a Persian Empire facing genocide, who ultimately turned the tables around for history. For one of those odd, redeeming moments, they're able to get on top of what is a dooming, terrible fate. And the tradition of wearing costumes has to do with the merriment of the fact that we were able to control our own destiny and fate, but also the idea of the hiddenness of identity, of what was going on at Purim and how people weren't allowed to be open and upfront about who they were. They were all walking around with masks. Metaphoric masks. They were walking around hiding their identity. No one could find God. We don't hear of God in the Scroll of Esther and the events of Purim. There's an incredible element of hiddenness, and part of Purim is to reveal that which was hidden. So we wear costumes. It has absolutely nothing to do with Halloween, absolutely nothing to do with ancient Celtic rites, nothing to do with the Roman Empire and the spread of Christianity into the New World. There couldn't be two more different realities. And it's interesting that I think the only reason there's the crossover is the wearing costumes, which really should bring us to the question of meaning in our celebrations and in our rituals. We need to know what Halloween is if we're going to choose whether to participate, and we really need to know what Purim is so that we can enjoy it to its fullest without the superficial confusion.